Namaste, everyone. Welcome to this podcast. I am Pooja Sharma. Today, we have a very, very special guest with us. The man who I found on Twitter, the man who I look up to, the man who is the most unapologetically himself person I've ever come across. Welcome, Harsh Strongman, who is a chartered accountant, a businessman, and the author of LifeMathMoney, a website which is dedicated to helping men get richer, fitter, and smarter. Welcome, Harsh. How are you doing?
I'm good, Pooja. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much. So, Harsh, we are going to talk about your CA and your entrepreneurial journey. I thought it'd be more engaging if we keep it in the me asking questions and you answering format. So, the questions that I'll be asking are on behalf of students in general. Some of the questions are direct questions of students, and a few of them are from my friends, and rest of the questions are the questions that I personally wanted to ask. So, shall we start?
Yep. Happy to answer any question you have.
Great. So we'll start from the very beginning, right from the decision of choosing to take up this course or pursue this chartered accountancy course. Harsh, I see a lot of people joining this course and they later drop out, right? So,
hmm
including myself, students join the course without proper guidance and later they realize, this is not for them. So, why did you choose CA and what do you think? What kind of mindset is required before students decide to pursue this course?
So I'll be really honest with you. When I chose CA, I was in 12th grade. I think I was 16 years old. And the main reason I chose it was that I picked commerce back in ninth grade. I was an ICSA. And it's something what my parents said this is a good course. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. See, at 16, nobody knows what they want to do. And the reality of the situation is everybody just does what they're told to do. I didn't have a grand vision of, hey, I want to do CA, this is the right degree for me. It worked out for me, but I didn't have a plan at 16 years of age. I just said, my father said do CA, this is a good course, my friends were doing CA, so I did CA. Like, that's an honest truth. Like, I'm not sugarcoating this is how it happened. My friends were doing it, my parents said this is a good course, I have CAs in my family, so I did CA. That's how I became a CA.
Okay, but now we are through with this course. So, what kind of mindset would you suggest other people should have before they join this course or they decide to pursue this course?
See, that question is sort of redundant because when you are at 16, it really doesn't matter what mindset you have. You will end up doing what you are being guided to do by your parents or by everybody around you. If I had to strictly answer your question, I would say that you first off need to have a vision in your mind. Do you want to be a practicing chartered accountant, or do you want to run a business, or do you want to be in a completely different field? But in a practical environment, like I'm speaking to a 16-year-old right now. He does not have this answer. At 16, I didn't know what a practicing chartered accountant did. I just knew the concept. Okay, there's a chartered accountant and they practice, but I didn't know what it was. So this question cannot exactly be answered to the audience it is intended to. But I will say this: if you're in commerce, if all the degrees available to you in the professional, like the cost accounting of the company secretary, I think CA is the better choice. But the way I'm seeing the business environment working right now, I don't think any of these professional degrees are a good idea. You might do them for knowledge, but at the end of the day, they're not as useful as you might have been led to believe. Because, let's say, as a businessman, it's been very helpful for me to know how accounting works, to know how auditing works, how I can manage my working capital. But I didn't really need to spend 5 years learning that. So it the relevance of these degrees as time progresses and as we move into the technology age, or as we are already in the technology age, we're just like getting deeper, the relevance of all of these degrees goes down. See, right now, you see people doing any degree they can see. For example, people do LLBs, people do graduations. I am not a graduate yet. I haven't done my graduation. I just did my C. I did my 12th and then I did a C. I at that point I thought a graduation degree is worthless, which turned out to be true. It is worthless.
Okay, so I also did from IGNU, which is just, you have to go and give the 6 papers, and that's all how you get the graduation degree. It's just, I mean, if that was not for 6 papers, I think I would have also skipped the idea of doing graduation. But I think you're right. At 16, you really, really don't know what exactly you're up to and what your plans could be like 5 years down the line. But yeah, it's always good to have a clear vision and then stick to it later on, maybe. Yeah.
See, the thing with a clear vision is that, okay, let's say someone who's worked for 3 years in any business, any industry, let's say he has a job or something, no, then that concept applies to him. He has some idea of what real work is like. But if you think back to when you were that young, you had no idea of what work was like. You had just come out of 12th, right? So in 12th, I was like watching TV, I was like chilling with my friends, I was studying at home, I was working out at the gym, but I had never done a day of real work. Are you getting me? So I don't think I don't actually really think this concept of picking your career right at the beginning is is a working system. And my real answer to you is that you got to first realize whether you really need to do this degree or not. If you want to start a business, you don't need a degree. You don't need any degree. You just need to know what you're talking about. Like, you have to have a good concept, you need to be smart. Okay, one thing I want to preface this entire conversation is with, I am a person with an IQ tested above 130. So anything I say might or might not apply to you. Your mileage might vary. So you are taking girl advice from a guy who looks really good. So it might or might not apply to you. So just keep that in the back of your head while listening. So yeah, in my opinion, you don't need a degree for business. Any business I've gotten into has never, no one has ever cared what degrees I had. Sometimes it is a bit impressive to tell people that I am a CA, but other than that, it's not worth it. It's not worth the 5 years it takes. And if you're considering if you're considering investing 5 years of your life into a degree, first off, make sure you want to do it. Don't just do it because everybody else is doing it. But I also understand that regardless of what I say in this podcast, you will end up doing what your parents ask you to do. So it's redundant.
So a lot of students come and tell me that the CA course is quite vast and it's monotonous. So would you like to share any study tips which helped you during your time and you think can be of great help to other students as well?
Yes. So here's the main advice I will give you regarding studying. Don't let it pile up. I'll repeat this. Do not let your syllabus pile up. If you are going to classes, which let's face it, everybody is. I went to classes for almost everything for my CA. Don't be like you went to your class and you went to college and then or you went to your work, your articleship, then you came home, you were too tired, and then you just slept, and then the day started again. What you want to do is, at the weekend, you want to restudy everything that was taught to you in class. What this does is, this ensures that you already prepared for your exam while you were being taught, for while you were in your classes, instead of those last 3 4 months where you start from scratch and you've forgotten everything. Don't let your syllabus pile up. Keep doing it. Make it a rollover thing. Like every week and you'll do the practice manual for whatever that was taught back in class. Don't let it pile up. That's the worst mistake you can make, and that mistake really kills people. Because I know quite a few people who didn't make CA, and they every all the time they'll say, if I had one extra month I would have cleared. But dude, you just gave 3 attempts. You had like a year and a half that was extra. It makes no sense. You just need to continuously study, and every weekend just complete whatever that was taught to you in class. For example, if you are you do you still have consolidation in
We
accounts?
do. We
Okay,
do.
so if you were taught consolidation, you want to come home and on Saturday you want to complete the entire practice manual for consolidation. You don't want to leave it to later. You want the concepts to stick into your head. The way the brain works is that over a long period of time, you can put in a lot of information over time. For example, half an hour a day, 2 hours a day. But if you sit in one day and sit and say for like for an entire week you're gonna do 8 hours every day, there's going to be a significant amount of loss. You can't, your brain wasn't designed to take in so much information in a very quick time. So if you study for 2.5 years how it's intended instead of those last 4 months, I think your results would be much better.
Hmm. That's right. And I believe a lot of people give up midway because they think if their plan is not working out, they'll stop planning and they'll just end up doing whatever they want to do and just going with the flow. And I think that's not a good strategy. So if you If your plan is not working out, why are you penalizing planning? Just penalize your execution, right?
Yep, I think that's called the abandoned ship mindset. For example, people who, for example, they did a study where people who diet and people who are dieting to lose weight, if you
Hmm.
give them something unhealthy to eat in the morning, they are more likely to eat unhealthy in the evening as well. So the way this thinking works is that I've already messed up, so I might as well mess up everything now.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be perfect. So screw it now. Like let's make it the worst now. So you don't want to do that. You want to avoid that instinct. It's a natural instinct, by the way. So you want to avoid it as much as possible. You want to resist doing that. Don't let the great be the enemy of the good.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Hirsch. So, 2 days ago, I wasn't watching Netflix for a very very long time. I think like in the past 6 months, I wasn't even bothered about Netflix. So the other day, I just watched a movie, like a random movie, and after that, I had the strong urge. Okay, maybe I should watch something else also. I mean, I didn't want to watch in the first place, and after watching it, I had the urge of going back, maybe watching something else on YouTube. So it does make sense what you said. So you have to resist in the first place and then not let it affect you that way.
That is completely true. And by the way, for movies and for things like that, there's actually a lot of psychology behind why that happens. It has something to do with neural pathways. So when you do an activity, if repeatedly, you form a habit, and that habit, if you were to zoom into your brain, it looks like neural pathways. And when you say don't do it for a while, you start craving that activity. That pathway becomes active, and if you give it a small amount of stimulation by say watching a movie, or that entire pathway becomes very active and you are craving more and more of the movie. So you would want to like overstimulate yourself. If you watch one, have you ever seen those sitcoms which have like 30-minute episodes?
No, I'm not into those sitcoms.
Okay, so what ends up happening is people think I'll watch one episode, but after they complete one episode, they start the second episode, then they go to the third episode, then they go to the fourth episode, and they do that until they're completely mentally drained. You don't want to do that. You want to stop at zero. You don't even want to watch one. You want to stop at zero.
Yeah, that's right. Let's move on to the next question. So, I believe that a lot of students neglect the importance of training or articleship or internship for that matter, including myself, because I didn't enjoy the boring work. However, my recent observation is that students are now getting like genuinely concerned about doing the articleship properly and seriously and from a good place. So, what are your 2 cents on the same, and how your learning experiences of your articleship paved the way for your say final exams, clearing them, and then taking up entrepreneurship?
Okay, so I spent my articleship at a big four firm, and then I was at a mid-sized firm for some time.
Hmm.
My advice, if you're picking a big four firm, is to avoid the audit department in general, because you would end up doing the same thing over and over and over again. And the funny part is, I know quite a few people who spent 3 years in a big four audit department and they failed audit in their CA final. So they aren't actually learning that much. People, so I think a lot of these big fours and a lot of these articles who are in that audit department, they keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And after a while, you get really bored. So it stops becoming about learning and it starts becoming about getting things done. So instead of it becoming about I'm going to this office to learn things, it becomes I have to go and complete XYZ tasks so that I can come home and rest now. And that becomes the daily schedule. So they stop learning. And that happens really, really quickly. If you don't enjoy your work, that happens very, very fast. So you want to avoid monotonous any kind of work that is extremely monotonous, that is not the work that is suited to you. And when it comes to picking a mid-sized firm, here's a heuristic. Like this doesn't apply to every case, but it's a heuristic. It's a general thumb rule. If a firm cannot pay you 4 or 5 thousand rupees in stipend, don't join that firm. I see firms which are like offering 1,500 rupees, 2,000 rupees as a stipend.
Yeah.
The thing is, I'm talking about an urban city, by the way. So
Hmm.
anyone who can't pay you 4 or 5 thousand rupees is not going to teach you anything, because that guy can't afford to pay 4,000 rupees a month. How can he teach you anything? How do you even know he knows anything? Look, it doesn't take a lot of intelligence to become a CA. I know a lot of morons who became CAs, and they couldn't find anything else to do, so they started a firm. and they need cheap labor, so they hire articles. And you don't want to be someone's cheap labor. You want to be a student. You don't want to be cheap labor. Keep that in mind. If someone can't pay you three, four, 5,000, if someone can't pay you 4 or 5,000 rupees, that firm is not worth working for. Secondly, while picking a firm, you want a firm that is decent. And by decent, I mean these people are actually professionals and not just people filing returns to make cash. Because a lot of firms just have a lot of clients and they're doing the same thing over and over and over again, just like filing salary returns for like 1,000 people and getting a small amount per return. That you're not learning. Okay, what I'm saying is you spend when you spend 2 years working for someone else, you want a return on your investment. So make sure it's a firm that actually has a variety of work, it has different kinds of clients, and it's willing to give you different types of work. It's not a firm that will like it'll tell you your job is the audit department and you will deal with X type of clients and that's what you will do for 2 3 years. You want to avoid that. And I would recommend speaking to articles who have already worked there for a long time, if you can, and speak to them unofficially. That is, meet them after they work or something. Like don't just join before speaking to anybody who's already been there, because at that point you're making a blind commitment for 2 years. So make sure what you're doing is well researched, and avoid making commitments to a particular kind of work because you want exposure to a lot of fields.
Absolutely correct. And these are, these things aren't talked about in the CA profession. So there's hardly any guidance available even from the seniors with respect to what kind of firm they should join. But yeah, slowly we believe that
It's
we can.
because people don't talk about it because they are in the profession, so they have a vested interest in not telling you these things. Because I'm not in the profession, I can say whatever I want.
That's right. That's right. So now let's move on to your entrepreneurial journey. And I believe a lot of people might be interested in knowing that. So, why did you take up entrepreneurship, and what expectations should the future founders have or not have with respect to entrepreneurship if they are really, really serious about taking up entrepreneurship?
Okay, so the reason I took up entrepreneurship was I wanted to do something bigger with my life. I didn't want to just be a consultant. I wanted to help more people. I wanted to reach more people. And I wanted to leave my mark in the world in a bigger way. So here's what I think happens to most people: they grow up, they go to school, they spend 40 years working, and then they die. And I wanted to do something bigger than that. I wanted to, for example, Einstein had relativity, Steve Jobs made Apple, and I wanted to do something bigger than being a CA. That's how I got into entrepreneurship. I wasn't so interested in making money because after a while I made so much money that it didn't make a difference. So money wasn't that motivating for me, but I still want to do bigger things, and that's what drives me. So that's an important thing I would like to say, because a lot of people who want to be entrepreneurs because they want to make a lot of money, and that works for some people. That does work for some people, but you will, if you do it right, you will eventually make a lot of money. But then what? Then you'll get bored, and once you get bored, you will no longer want to work on the business. You want to watch TV, you want to hang out, you want I've seen this happen to quite a few friends of mine who are also in business. They wanted to make money, they made money, and now they just chill. They're wasting their life away basically because they lack purpose. So you want a bigger purpose than money. Yeah, what was the other part of your question?
Um, what expectations should the future founders have or not have with respect to entrepreneurship? Because it remains an unexplored field for a lot of people. So what kind of expectations this should have before they decide to actually take it up, because I see people again take up entrepreneurship without proper guidance, without knowing these consequences, and then they end up hating it, and then they end up like quitting the startup that they actually were quite passionate about. So what do you think, what kind of expectations should they have?
So first off, you should not expect to for it to be easy, or the way they show it in movies is not how it works in real life. Have you seen this movie called The Social Network? They show Mark Zuckerberg making Facebook.
I'm really bad with movies. I'm so sorry.
So
I've
in
not
the
watched.
movie, they show Mark Zuckerberg to be partying all the time, like he's drinking beer, and on the side he's also coding, and people are drunk coding. And but that's not how it works in real life. That's just not how it works. If you're going to be starting a business, you're going to be completely focused. You're not going to be having fun. If it's fun, you're doing it wrong. Because it's fun in the beginning where it's new, but after a while you get down to work, right? It's work, and it's going to be hard initially for you to get clients, for you to get customers, for you to build your brand, but things tend to exponent after a while. So here's what you want to focus on. You want to focus on keeping your growth rate high. If your growth rate sucks, it's not a startup. The definition of a startup is anything that grows very fast. If it's not growing fast, it's a traditional business, it is not a startup. Secondly, as a startup owner, you want to do, you want to make sure the product is good, you have a good product market fit, and you got to make sure that a certain population of whatever niche you are occupying, a certain part of it really loves your product. What people tend to go for is that they pick a product or they pick a service, whatever, which everybody kind of likes, but no one really admires or no one really likes it. So if I give you an example of, say, LifeMathMoney itself, not everybody likes my blog. Small amount of people, let's say 20% of men in the world really like my blog, or 10% of men, or just 1% of men, a very small amount of men, but it's still a big amount, really like my blog. They'll come back every day, they'll check for articles, they'll read it. But the 99.9% or 99 or most of the people don't like my blog that much. They will never come, they will never buy anything from me, they will never read me. So that is workable, that's a good business, because a small part of the population will really likes you. What people end up doing is they end up making a product that everybody sort of likes. Nobody likes it too much, but everybody kind of likes. But when you kind of like something, Pooja, you will not spend money on it. So you will not have a good business if you don't have people who love you.
Definitely, Harsh. So, I mean, here we can also talk about the rosy picture that people talk about entrepreneurship. So it's not at all rosy. I think you clearly mentioned it. So it looks that you'll make a lot of money, you'll get to hang out with girls, you'll get girls or something like that. But at the end, you
That
have to
only
have.
happens on Twitter. It's a marketing thing. If you go to Twitter, you'll find a lot of people posting pictures in cars, and they're just marketing their business, and they're trying to teach. I will teach you how to make money, and I have all of these things that you like, so therefore I can teach you. So that's just marketing. If you fall for it, I don't think you are qualified to be an entrepreneur. You will not do well if you fall for such basic scams.
Yeah, so you need to understand all these marketing gimmicks and not fall for it in the first place. And it's not only in Twitter, just to tell you, Harsh, it's everywhere actually. There's, you might have heard of, I don't want to take up names, but same kind of following is enjoyed by people on Instagram as well. So it is everywhere. um, with
Social
this, I
media
think,
has that quality, it's very
yeah,
visual, so people try to really put things like people holding cash. Have you seen those rap songs, like people throwing cash and like
yeah,
drinking bottles and like,
gold and wearing rings and chains. So
yeah, that
very
that
tacky.
that's not real. It's not how it works.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you ever get into a real business, that's something you will figure out very quickly. But all of these people are targeting noobs, they're targeting people who don't know anything. So those kind of people actually end up falling for it.
Hmm, you're right. And also, I think the kind of environment they're exposed to, that also makes a lot of difference. Because if you're not exposed in difficult situation, or if you're not aware of what's going around in your surroundings, then you're definitely going to screw up somewhere, or you'll not understand things. So you need to put yourself in difficult or uncomfortable situations in order to actually learn. That's how I learned personally. I don't know how other people do, but yeah.
Yeah, you are 100% correct about that. You gotta put yourself outside your comfort zone. And a good book I would recommend for this is The 4 Hour Work Week. And they have these comfort challenges in the middle of the book. For example, stare into people's eyes. Or they had this one comfort challenge where you were supposed to lie down in the middle of the street, like not in the street, I mean on the footpath. And because there's no law against doing it, but See, no one does
Yeah.
it, so we're not comfortable doing it. So there's
Did
quite.
you do that?
I did that thrice. I did that at an ice cream shop. I did that in a metro, and I did that on a sidewalk. I think this was like 10 years ago. So I was like, very.
Yeah. At that time we were all like jazzy, and so that wouldn't have, and maybe if you were with friends, that was like icing on the
No, no,
cake.
I was
So
not with friends. See, I
okay.
just read the book, and the book gives you timelines. Like in the next 2 days, you have to do this, and that's what I did. But the thing is, I've never been a very embarrassed person. If I want to
Mhm.
do something, I've always been a bit outrageous in my entire life, so it wasn't that hard for me. But that
Mhm.
book is something I think everybody should read. It's called The 4 Hour Work Week. It's by Tim Ferriss.
Okay, great. So people listening to the podcast must go and check that book out. Maybe you'll get some good ideas. I think let's move on to the next question. Next question is from a friend of mine, and he wants to ask that apart from the general business acumen that is required to run any business, but there are definitely some special skills which are needed to manage the online business. So, what are those special skills, and how can one hone them?
To be honest, there are no real special skills. Online business is just business. It's just online. That's the only difference.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to know some amount of coding. You need to know how to, run a website, how to make changes, how to make a theme. These are some technical skills which you will learn on your own when you face a problem. You don't have to do a course on it. For example,
Mm-hmm.
if your website is not working and you see an error message, what do? You Google it, right? Or you DuckDuckGo it if you're smarter. So when you DuckDuckGo the problem, you end up with a solution, and now you've learned how to solve the problem. And eventually, you will face enough problems, and you learn quite a bit. But everything else you need to know, you end up learning on the job. You don't have to do a course or build the skill beforehand. The execution skill, you just end up doing it. Here's how I started. See, for example, personally, with my business experience,
Mm-hmm.
I just started doing it, and I just improvised wherever it was necessary. And eventually I just became good at it. I didn't start, when I started, I was not good. I was very mediocre, but over
Mm-hmm.
time, I just improved, right? That's how I think that's what happens to everybody, whether they may
Mm-hmm.
present it that way or not.
So people, I used to spend a lot of time in planning personally, I would say, uh, and actually delayed the execution. But later on, I realized that just do it anyway. Nobody's going to expect that you're going to deliver the perfect product or the perfect service or the perfect video in the first attempt. Nobody.
See, the thing is, even if people are expecting you to do it, who cares, man? Like, who cares? It's your life, it's your video. Here's the thing, no, don't let other people reject you. Like, don't do the rejection for them, let them reject you. I'll give you an example of what you did, Pooja. You sent me a message saying that I wanted to do a podcast with you earlier, but I didn't ask you because I thought you would say no. And you delayed it because you thought I would say no. So you did the rejection for me. You didn't let me reject you, you did it for me. You were like, he's going to say no, so I might as well not ask, so it's going to be a no. And that's a dumb thing to do. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because what's the worst that could have happened if you had asked me? I would have
Yeah.
said no, which you were
Right.
already expecting, so you wouldn't have lost anything. And since you asked, you got to do a podcast with me, so that worked
Yeah.
out, right?
Yeah. Actually, you're right.
So you want to let other people reject you. You don't want to let yourself reject yourself for them. Like, you don't want to be the one rejecting yourself.
True, true, true. Proper sign of low self-esteem I have.
No, it's not low self-esteem. It's just, okay, if I was meeting, say, somebody, I don't know, if I was meeting, say, Donald Trump, and I
Mhm.
had to speak with him, I would err on the side of not talking with him, because I would think that he's busy, and why would he want to talk with someone like me, etc., right? But if I
Mhm.
just try, and what if he just says, okay, like, what do I have to lose?
Mhm. He won't even remember,
Yeah, he won't.
actually.
See, even if he does remember, what difference does it make?
What, actually? Hmm.
Rejection is better than regret, isn't it?
Definitely it is. So, with this, I think we can move on to the questions that I received from students. Some are related to career and industry, and others are abstract. So, here's the question from Gaurav. Gaurav wants to know about some innovative add-on courses that you can do to develop your skills, which are in demand in the industry.
Okay, question one is, when you say in demand in the industry, what industry are you referring to? Because these are vague questions people ask when they don't have any idea what they want to ask. So for example, if a teacher forces you ask me something, so they'll just ask a question. So this question is not a good question in my opinion, but I'll give you a real answer that will help you. First of all, you don't want to do a course that is you don't want to do a course just because it's being demanded by an industry, or it's a hot course. Like CFA is a hot course right now, but it's kind of not that useful. Here's how you actually learn. You want to do things that are fundamental to other disciplines. For example, if you are a chartered accountant or you are a CA student, you want to learn how to use Python, you want to learn how to write code, you want to learn how to edit photographs via Photoshop, you want to learn how to make a website, you want to learn all these basic skills from disciplines that are not related to yours. And all of these things will make you more holistic, they will improve your ideas, and they will improve execution in the future. For example, even as a CA later on, you might want to say automate something. So if you know how to use Python, you will have the idea of automating it. If you don't know how to use Python, if you don't know how to do it, your brain will not automatically think, okay, let's automate this and hire someone else to do it for me. But if you know the basics of that field, you will get that idea in your head, okay, this can be automated. Even though I might not have the skills to do it, I know it can be done. So instead of doing courses that the industry likes, I think you should do courses in a variety of fields that are not related to yours, because it improves your thinking process, it improves the amount of ideas you have in your head, and it really helps you out in the long run. And I will give you an example on this. I set up my first website as a joke. I made it to troll my friend. And what ended up happening was, eventually I thought, hey, let me start writing. So I knew how to start a website, so I started LifeMathMoney, which turned out to be so big and nice for me. But if I had never set up a website, this idea of writing would not have occurred to me, or I would not have, even if it did occur to me, I would not take it up, because I would have the hurdle of figuring out how to start a website. And a lot of times that hurdle event makes you not do the thing you want to do, because you're like, okay, this is too hard, or this is very overwhelming. So you want a variety of different fields, and you want to know the basics of all the fields. You want to know the basics of physics, you want to know the basics of chemistry, you want to know the basics of evolutionary biology, you want to know the basics of strength training. And for example, reading Strength, Starting Strength by Mark Repetto. You want to know the basics of negotiation. You want to know a variety of different skills. You should be able to edit photographs as well. Don't focus on one industry, it's a mistake. Specialization is for insects.
Naval, right?
Naval, yeah. Is it Naval or Naval?
I don't know. I call him Naval. I don't know. Maybe it's Naval. Great. So next question is of Deepak's, and he wants to ask, how do you set yourself up when you face adversities?
No, once again, there isn't something you can do in a day that you'll set yourself up to face adversity. You couldn't like wear a t-shirt, you couldn't like, wear a cape and I'm Superman. Like it's not something that's like, one, two, three, done. It's something that you are made over a long period of time. So here's a long answer, okay? You want to incrementally get yourself used to difficulties, and you cannot train for it in a day, and you cannot train for it in specific. For example, you cannot be like, I will do X thing that will make me stronger to face difficulties. It's not how it works. You become stronger overall. And here's the actionable advice is, first off, you want to have your body strong. So that means going to the gym and lifting weights. Because my observation is that people whose bodies are not strong tend to not be strong mentally as well. And people who have strong minds, strong bodies, tend to have stronger minds. So if for example, yesterday I was squatting 2 plates. That's 100 kgs. Today I'll squat 102. And in the next few months, by the end of the year, I'll squat 3 plates. So eventually, I'm becoming stronger every workout, every week, and eventually my capacity to handle stress increases physically, because a lot of things end up depending on your body. It is not just your mind. So you want to first fix your body, go to a gym. That is a serious advice I'm giving you. This is not a platitude. Go to a gym and start lifting weights. Preferably you want to read that book, Starting Strength by Mark Repetto, and start lifting weights. Secondly, you want to meditate. What this does is it makes your mind more stable. Have you ever had this thing, Pooja, where you had some kind of issue or some problem, and your mind kept playing that thing in your head over and over again.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one common problem with all the humans.
But if you start meditating, that issue becomes less and less prevalent. I used to have this problem, and this was like 5 6 years ago, and I didn't meditate that then. I didn't meditate that much, and now I meditate very regularly, and it doesn't happen that much. I'm able to control my thoughts much better.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to meditate. When you meditate, your prefrontal cortex, that is the executive part of your brain, becomes much stronger, and your emotional centers also become more stable. So meditation is very, very helpful, and it's not that hard. You just have to sit for 15 minutes. So instead of sitting for 15 minutes and watching Facebook, sit for 15 minutes and meditate. It'll really help you. And here's an important thing, by the way, to everybody listening to this podcast. This is not something that will happen in one day. You'll have to give it a couple of years. Rome was not built in a day, and neither will you be built in a day. So don't expect, okay, don't be the guy who does everything perfect for 1 week and then stop showing up. You want to be consistent, and you want to be consistent for a long time. Only then you would become strong enough to face adversity. Like the question asked, there is nothing you can do in a short time that will help you get there. It doesn't work that way. When you're used to facing hardships, for example, in the gym, or when you're used to doing hard things don't look that hard. But when you're not used to doing hard things, everything looks hard. Any kind of small issue looks hard. So you want to get yourself used to being harsh on yourself, so the world can't do anything to you that you haven't done to yourself before. I'll give you an example. Let's say if I fall sick tomorrow, I can't go to the gym, and I end up gaining 20 kgs of fat. I would lose the fat within a year. 20 kgs of fat, I would probably it'll probably be gone within 9 months, because I've done it before. I know I'm capable of it. I know what to do. But a lot of people who get fat for the first time, they don't lose it ever in their entire life. They just spend their life being fat because they haven't inflicted it on themselves. They haven't done the work. So you want to put yourself through a lot of hardships, and that is in the gym, or while studying long hours, or meditating, or whatever. You want to get yourself trained to be able to face difficult situations and things you don't want to do. Leg day is a very good day to train your mind. Like, nobody likes leg day, and you should learn to do leg day properly. Like, never skip leg day. It really builds your mind up.
That's about it. And I think we can move on to the next question. And that is that. So I think again it's related to the industry and the career. So students, they read a lot of books in their curriculum, and it becomes redundant by the time they enter the industry or they start working. So I think it's sort of related to the question that I already asked, but he wants to know that how to gain the knowledge which will be relevant in the real life. So this was actually Vedant's question, but I modified it a little bit to make it more relevant.
So the way you learn things that are relevant in real life is to do things that are relevant in real life. There is no course that was made specifically like this is things that you will do in real life, and it subtracted everything that's nonsense in the book. The way So I'll tell you why you're taught a lot of theory which you think becomes redundant when you enter your practical life. When you are being taught chartered accountancy, they have to teach you all the situations that can arrive in your career, all of them. Now, 90% of them might never arrive in your career, but in case they do, they want you to know what to look at, or they want you to be prepared. And that is the purpose of any education. I'll give you, if I had to extrapolate, this would be, let's say you want, let's say, Pooja, you make these audio clips, right? Now, practically you are using the software and you're using a computer, but is that all you need to know? No, you might want to know small details about other things as well. And you cannot say the things you haven't used are redundant. They are just things that haven't come into your life yet. You might use them later.
Yeah.
So I don't think that this is something I used to think as well. Like, what's all this theory, man? It's all nonsense. I wouldn't be needing this in my life. And I remember saying this, like, why would I need math? Why would I need to do math when I was in school? But it became useful later, right? Didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. The same thing. You know about the subject ISCA, or IT or EIS and Enterprise Information System. You had this subject, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So a lot of people hate this subject because it's all theoretical, and I believe people don't learn computers in the age of technology. They don't really learn about computers after their class 12th, after class 10th, I believe. Because in class 11th and 12th, computers is a choice, and all of a sudden they get to see the subject ISCA or EIS or information technology, and then they just go bum that, this is such a difficult subject. But I asked a brother of mine who's working in Wipro, and everything that's written in that book, it's actually so much relevant in the cloud computing and with the respect to accounting softwares. So had I not read all of that, I would have never made sense out of the software that we keep building, the kind of features that I want to add, so that it will eventually help my customers. So people, I believe they just hate it because it looks bad.
I think it's because people study it with a view to pass the exam and not to learn the material or to increase the knowledge. Or I'll tell you how I studied ISCA. A friend of mine gave me a book by some coaching class, and I just learned that book and I went to the exam and I passed the exam. I didn't care about learning the material because I was too focused on passing that exam. And that's what happens with CA. It's like that exam has a very low graduation rate. And the real truth is that if you had an option of really knowing the material and failing the exam, or not knowing that much and passing the exam, I would pick passing the exam. And that's how everybody else, if you are rational, you would pick passing the exam. So that's how it works. People do a class notebook and they go for the exam and they clear the exam. People don't read it because it's not relevant to the exam. So that's a problem. That's why people hate that subject. If you see a book that you're supposed to memorize or learn, but you don't know what the actual material or what you're being taught, it's just like, this is like the essence of it. Just learn it, go for your exam.
So, next question is from Ashwin, and he is asking that it's difficult to obtain funds for a startup. So, can a person who has no penny to his name think of becoming an entrepreneur, and how to sail through the highs and lows during your entrepreneurial journey?
Hey man, no matter how much money you have, you can think of anything. Thinking is not, the execution is the hard part. Anyone can think of anything. So the joke out of the way, I'll tell you the real answer is, if you have a good concept, I don't think you need that much backing in the internet age. How much does it cost to make a website? It doesn't cost that much money. If you have 0 rupees, like if you have 0 rupees, then see, it's a very theoretical situation, and in that case, it's really really hard to get anything done. So in that, you want a minor amount of cash at least in your bank. But if you have a good concept that's profitable, yeah, man, it's not that hard to find money. It's not easy, but it's not super hard. But make sure your idea is good. A lot of people come up with nonsense ideas. They want to start a restaurant, or they want to start a low growth business, and these ideas they think are good, but why would an investor invest their money into something like this? You have to think from an investor's point of view as well. Like, some ideas are good, but they're not investable. The second part of his question was, how do you sail through the highs and lows of the journey?
Yes, yes.
Keep your growth rate high. The problem solves itself. If your growth, even if you're losing money, if your growth rate is very high, the problem will eventually sort itself out. But if your growth rate is low, then you will have problems, and you will have low confidence moments as well. See, anything that is grand, anything that's worth doing, that's big, you won't feel 100% confidence. You will always have that thing in the back of your head, what if I fail? And that's just natural. You just learn to deal with it. I have them occasionally. Everybody has them. You learn to deal with it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And you cannot have a preconceived notion about all the things, especially like entrepreneurship. So whatever comes your way, you have to deal it, if at all you're very serious about it, or otherwise you'll end up giving up on your idea, or maybe you'll quit.
See, sometimes it's a good idea to quit. If your idea sucks and you realize your idea sucks, quit. Don't make it go on for 6 more months and then quit. Quit as early as possible. The moment you realize this is not going to work out, for sure, is the moment you should quit. And a lot of people just keep going even after realizing that this is a bad idea, and they waste a lot of time that way.
So I think we can end the podcast here with just one last question. Two important lessons for people who are in their 20s.
The first one is keep your health in order. Go to the gym, work out, meditate, keep your health in order, because a lot of people who don't do that end up in their 30s with a really terrible body. They end up with a lot of problems in their 40s, like diabetes, they end up with obesity. And these are not problems you want in your life. You have a short amount of time to live. At 20 years of age, you have, let's say, 50 years left. And if you spend 10 years just fucking around, partying, relaxing, eating whatever comes your way, you will end up in 10 years, you will end up with a horrible body and you will ruin the next 40 years of your life. It's not worth it. Keep your health up. That the worst mistake you can make is letting your health decline in a significant way. The second lesson I would give. So, see, this is a difficult question because there's many lessons I want to give.
We can you can give as many as you want, but I thought
No,
maybe
no, no. I'll think of something. See, the second one is you want to read a lot of books. What ends up happening is if you don't read, you only know what you know. But when you read from people who are like very, very well read, or very people who've done great things in their life, you end up with a lot of ideas and mental models and the experiences of other people, and that is very, very valuable because if you want more ideas, you want more things to connect to, you want other people's viewpoint, you will have to read a lot. And you need to read, I would say, here's a good metric. Here's what I do. I read at least 20 pages a day. Now, 20 pages a day can be anything. It can be a blog post, or it can be a chapter in a book, but read 20 pages a day. It adds up really fast. And on some days I might read more, but keep reading books. Like, don't stop reading. It's a huge thing. And when I say read, I don't mean fiction, I don't mean entertainment reading, I mean non-fiction, serious reading. Read anything. I've read, like, you get a credit card, you see terms and conditions of the credit card. I've read credit card terms and conditions. I've read agreements. I read financial statements. I read any book that comes into my hand. If you see a photo of my library, it's full of books. I've read so much. And it's really, really helped me out in my life because any problem you face in your life has been faced by someone else before. You are not special or unique. And you want to cut short the time. As many lessons you can learn from other people is time saved in your own life. So that is something I strongly recommend. And here's another thing I would recommend to people in their 20s: don't waste time on social media, don't waste time watching TV. I don't watch TV. In the last 10 years, I've watched like 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 hours of TV. I haven't watched any. I haven't watched much TV. I watch like one movie every year, and that's overestimating it because I go. Sometimes I've gone an entire year, 2 years without watching a movie, and I haven't missed anything important. I really haven't missed anything important. If something important happens, someone will tell you that this XYZ thing happened. You don't have to keep watching TV, or you don't have to watch the news. I wouldn't recommend it. And don't waste your time on social media. Don't waste your time watching porn. Don't waste your time just daydreaming about, well, blah 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 blah. If I had done this, XYZ would have happened. Like, don't ruminate about bullshit. Just keep focused on your life. The thing is, if you keep focused for 5 years, you end up at a completely different level than other people. And
Mm.
what so here's a big issue, by the way. Have you heard of the concept of FOMO, fear of missing out?
Yeah, yeah.
So when you are working hard on your own life, you see other people having fun, and that makes you want to have fun. You're like, okay, I want to like go to party, etc. But if you spend 5 years working on yourself, you will find that all these people are like completely beneath your level. Like they're
Mm.
just beneath your level. Like, if they wanted a meeting with you, you would not say yes because it would be a waste of your time.
Mm.
So you need to put in the work, just keep focusing and keep working on yourself. I promise you, in 5 years, it adds up and your life comes together. Just keep working. I know right now you must be like 19, 20, 30, 21 years old, the person listening to this podcast. So your life has just started. So if you keep working from now, you can make it a big thing in the future. But if you waste 5, 10 years, then it becomes very hard to catch up.
Yeah.
Everyone
That's
thinks you have potential until you hit 25, and then no one thinks you have potential. Either you have made it or you haven't.
And you're either being praised for whatever you've achieved, or you're being criticized for not doing
Uh,
much in your
your
life, right?
family will avoid talking about you at 25 if you haven't done anything.
Yeah, true. That's true. Absolutely true. Thank you so much, Harsh. It was so much fun to have you here and listen words of wisdom from you. I personally learned a lot during this podcast. So thank you. Big, big, big thank you.
I always happy to help and very glad to be on your podcast, Pooja, and very happy to see people like you creating good content and trying to reach out and helping more people.
Great. So, guys, you should definitely follow Harsh on Twitter. I will be linking his Twitter handle in the description box. He's on Instagram and Facebook as well. I'll put the links in the
Yep.
description.
I'm at Life Math
And
Money everywhere. Life Math Money.
yeah, and you must check out his website. I've read quite a lot of articles that he keeps writing, and some of them are really, really amazing. And I keep going back to them whenever I feel like I need to do a recheck again. So I visit the website again and again. And there's this one product that Harsh is really, really passionate about. That's Live Your Life Intentionally in 90 Days. I took it and I found it useful. I wasn't that regular. That was my mistake. But you can try it out and see if that helps you.
I wouldn't push my product here, but what I would say is read my website. It might just change your mindset. I call it the mindset rewiring service. Read my Twitter.